Thank you. And I want to echo the thank yous of having RPI put together this program. This morning you all were people with the greatest idea on the planet, trying to figure out how to develop a business. At a little after 4 o'clock, you've developed a management team, you've put together a product, you're in the marketplace, you're thriving, you've levered up on some debt, and now you're asking yourself, what do I do next? Typically that's when we get a call, and it's usually a function of when people think of mergers and acquisitions, particularly business owners, often it's in terms of an exit. But there's other reasons why you might want to consider that, and one is that M&A is a legitimate path for growing your business. And that the reasons you can use this to grow a business is, one, acquire new clients, but also oftentimes we find companies, particularly emerging companies, middle market companies that have key clients, often their client will tell them there's a struggling competitor that we would like you to take a look at, or that you need to be in this location because we're building a plant there. And often then you're faced with a decision. One, do I buy out that struggling competitor? Or two, what do I do about entering a new market? And it becomes a make-buy decision, right? You either can start de novo, you buy a building, you put in equipment, or you can buy a competing company that may or may not be servicing your client. The other reason why you would consider an acquisition is to acquire talent, right? As was discussed earlier today, acquiring talent for your business is a key challenge, particularly when you're trying to maintain that growth and continue to thrive. So another reason why you look at an acquisition is it gives you the talent that you may not have in-house in terms of being able to perpetuate your growth. The third would be, again, entering new markets. This could be international markets. This could be new vertical markets. We're in the healthcare industry. We want to go into financial services. We want to go to Canada. So again, using this as a way to enter new markets is also a viable tool. M&A is a viable tool for doing that. Either way, as you've heard all through today, a key part of the process is you need to have an infrastructure in place to grow the business. It's no different whether you're acquiring a company or if you're selling your business. There's a certain amount of infrastructure that's required to do that. Much of the infrastructure that we've talked about today is internal to the business, having your financial team in place, your sales team, your management team. Those are key factors also, because when you're considering doing an acquisition, you want to make sure that you have the scale in place to be able to take advantage of the scale economies that are going to come with that, and so that internal team is critical. But there's also an external team. There's your legal team, and the legal team may not only be the contract lawyer you've been using for the last 15 years, you may actually need a lawyer who's done transaction experience. It's an accounting team to help you. Your external accounts will be a critical factor in terms of how do you position yourself from a tax perspective, how do you position yourself in making sure that you have the financial systems in place. Human resources, another factor here, and again, you may be looking for outside counsel in terms of how do we assimilate new people into our company, and we've heard some consultants talk to you about that today as well. And then the last thing then is people like myself or your banking team who can help you find ways to finance and integrate that acquisition. So an external team is critical in terms of being able to achieve a successful M&A strategy. The last thing that I want to talk about is what people mostly think about, particularly in your seat when they talk about M&A, is exiting the business. Right? And the key thing here is how do you maximize the value of your firm? And just as I was describing when you're looking at it as an acquisition tool, the same things happen here. One, a buyer is going to be looking at, do you have a team in place? If the team's not in place, that's going to have an impact on your value. So again, critical that you have a strong management team in place to be able to allow that buyer to capitalize on the opportunity. Do you have client concentration issues? Right? Often emerging companies, growth companies, middle market companies, it's not unusual that they have a client concentration issue. Anywhere they could have a key client that accounts for 25, 50, 75, 80% of the business, and that's a factor in terms of what a buyer is going to look at. So if you find yourself in a concentration issue, before you consider selling your business today, you might want to find ways, how do I diversify my client base? Again, with the idea of trying to help maximize value. And then the last thing that comes into mind is making sure that you are in a market and that you understand that market. We heard Sinclair talk about being the expert, to be the expert matter, the expert on your business. That's the same thing here. You want to be able to convey to your prospective buyer that you know you're not only how to sell your widget, but you know the marketplace better than anybody else, and that's how you're going to be able to allow them to capitalize on that value. So that's all I have to say about the subject. I'll be happy to answer any questions in the cocktail hour. Again, thank you all for allowing us to participate.